Guadalajara, Mexico, March 2019. On the night of May 3rd, something happened that shattered the Hernandez family forever. 4-year-old Mateo suddenly burst into uncontrollable terror. His small body shook, his face drained of color, and then through tears, he said something no one in the room could make sense of. The Great Pyramid. That's where I died. The sacred fire burned me. Ana Hernandez froze. She couldn't move. She could barely breathe. How could a 4-year-old say something like that? At first, Ana tried to calm him down with the usual motherly phrases, thinking it was just a nightmare. But Mateo stopped crying instantly. And then, in a voice that didn't sound like his at all, he whispered, "We were in Teotihuacan. My father was waiting for me." Miguel Hernandez, Mateo's father and a history professor at the University of Guadalajara, felt the blood drain from his face. Teotihuacan, the ancient sacred city of the Aztecs, one of the most mysterious places in all of Mesoamerica. And their 4-year-old son had never even been there. That same day, something even stranger happened. Mateo looked straight at Miguel and said, with absolute clarity, "My name isn't Mateo. I'm Itzo. I sent you a message 8 years ago." Miguel recorded everything on his phone. Ana held Mateo tightly, terrified, knowing deep down that this was just the beginning. What followed over the next days became one of the most shocking and well-documented cases of alleged childhood reincarnation ever recorded in modern Mexico. A story that challenges everything we believe about life, death, and the continuity of the human soul. Because that night was only the beginning. Every night afterward, at exactly 3 a.m., Mateo would sit up in bed, never screaming, never crying, just staring blankly into the darkness, as if looking through the walls of time. And then he began speaking. Not Spanish, not even a modern language, but perfect, fluent Nahuatl. "Quetzalcoatl comes for me tonight," he whispered. His jade feathers shine in the dark. Ana recorded all of it, her hands trembling. Miguel sent the audio to colleagues who specialized in pre-Hispanic languages, and the translations chilled them all to the bone. Mateo wasn't just speaking Nahuatl, he was speaking an ancient ceremonial dialect used in the 6th century, a form so old that it survives only in a handful of fragile codices. Even Mexico's top linguists struggle to understand it fully. Miguel lay awake night after night, asking himself the same question: how can my son, who can barely count to 10 in Spanish, speak a forgotten sacred language? But the most disturbing revelation had yet to come. One evening, Dr. Elena Vasquez, an archaeologist specializing in Teotihuacan, and a close friend of the family, came to witness the phenomenon herself. Elena had devoted 20 years of her life to studying the sacred city. She knew every stone, every glyph, every theory about that mysterious civilization. At exactly 3 a.m., Mateo rose in bed as he always did. He looked straight at Elena, his eyes strangely calm, and this time spoke perfect Spanish, but with the tone of someone far older. "Doctora Elena, you're digging in the wrong place." A chill raced through her body. "The Temple of the Feathered Serpent isn't where everyone thinks it is," Mateo continued. "It's 13 meters further north, beneath the platform of the altars. That's where my father the priest hid the sacred texts before the invaders came." Elena's breath caught in her throat. That platform had always been considered a secondary structure. Her team had never conducted a deep excavation there. Elena whispered, barely able to form words, "Mateo, how do you know that?" The boy looked at her with heartbreaking sadness. "Because I helped bury them, Doctora, before the sacred fire carried me to the gods." Then, as if nothing had happened, Mateo lay back down and slept peacefully until sunrise. Elena walked out of the Hernandez home, knowing her life had just been split into a before and an after. But what came next challenged even her faith in science. 3 weeks after that night, The Hernandez family received a phone call that changed everything. Dr. Carlos Mendoza, director of the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City and one of the country's most respected archaeologists, had heard about the case through Elena. His proposal was simple and terrifying. Bring Mateo to the museum. No coaching, no preparation. If he truly lived in Teotihuacan, he should be able to identify artifacts that have never been displayed to the public. On April 15, 2019, under strict scientific protocol, the family arrived at the museum. 6 cameras recorded every second. 3 child psychology experts monitored Mateo's expressions. Elena stood beside them as a witness. And then it happened. Mateo stepped into the Teotihuacan exhibit room, as if he were walking into his own home. He didn't behave like a curious 4-year-old. He didn't run toward the shiny objects. He didn't ask, "What's this?" or "Can I touch it?" Instead, Mateo walked straight to a display case tucked away in the far corner, one that held simple ceramic fragments labeled as domestic use, classic period. He gently placed his hand on the glass. "This was my plate," he said. "My mother used to serve amaranth tortillas on it." The archaeologists exchanged alarmed looks. Chemical analysis had indeed revealed microscopic traces of amaranth on that exact piece, but that information had never been made public. Before anyone could react, Mateo walked to another case. He pointed at a small bone whistle shaped like an owl, almost invisible among more impressive treasures. "Why do you have my father's collar here?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. He used it to speak to the other priests during the night ceremonies. Dr. Mendoza felt his knees weaken. That whistle had been discovered only 6 months earlier during a private excavation. Its purpose had baffled researchers until this moment. Elena knelt beside Mateo. "Is there anything else you can tell us about this place?" Mateo's face softened with sadness. "Doctora, everything here is displayed wrong. The Pyramid of the Sun wasn't a temple to honor the sun. It was the entrance to the underworld. My father and I used to go down through the secret tunnels every new moon." Mendoza swallowed hard. "What tunnels?" Mateo didn't hesitate. "The ones underneath, 32 meters down. That's where the real treasures are." The room fell completely silent, because although no one in that moment knew it, in March 2020, exactly 32 meters below the Pyramid of the Sun, Mendoza's team would uncover the largest underground tunnel system ever documented in Teotihuacan. But that discovery was still in the future. After the museum incident, Mateo's obsession spiraled out of control. Every night at 3 a.m., the boy woke up asking the same question. "When are we going home, Mama? My father, the priest, is waiting for me. The other children want to go back too." Ana and Miguel barely slept. Their son's words haunted them. Other children. Who were these other children? And why did Mateo speak about Teotihuacan as if it truly was his home? Things reached a breaking point when Mateo began refusing food. "This isn't my food," he cried, pushing the plate away. "I ate cacao flowers and sacred honey. My stomach hurts because I'm not home." Dr. Miguel tomó la decisión más difícil de su vida. El 2 de mayo de 2019, exactamente 3 semanas después de la prueba en el museo, la familia Hernández empacó sus maletas y se dirigió a Teotihuacan. El plan era simple: llevar a Mateo a las ruinas, demostrarle que solo eran piedras antiguas y regresar a casa con la esperanza de que su obsesión terminara. Pero lo que sucedió cuando llegaron los dedos sin palabras para siempre. El autobús se detuvo en el estacionamiento principal del sitio arqueológico a las 4 de la tarde. Mateo, que había permanecido dormido durante todo el viaje de 5 horas desde Guadalajara, despertó exactamente en el momento que las ruinas aparecieron en el horizonte. Sus ojos se llenaron de lágrimas. "Estoy en casa", Grito con una alegría que sus padres no le habían desde antes de las pesadillas. Estoy en casa, mamá. Mateo salió corriendo del autobús antes de que sus padres pudieran detenerlo. Corrió directamente hacia la entrada del complejo arqueológico, pero no se dirigió hacia la taquilla como cualquier turista haría. Corrió hacia un sendero lateral, apenas visible entre la vegetación. QNI Sequira los guías oficiales conocen. Mateo, espera, gritó Ana corriendo detrás de él, pero el niño ya había desaparecido entre las ruinas. Cuando finalmente lo encontraron, 10 minutos después estaba arrodillado frente a una pequeña pirámide secundaria, tocando las piedras con las palmas de sus manos y llorando. Papá sacerdote, susurraba en él. Ya regres. Perdón por tardar tanto. Miguel filmó todo con manos temblorosas, porque lo que iba a suceder en los siguientes días cambiaría para siempre la comprensión científica sobre la vida después de la muerte. Y Mateo estaba a punto de guiarlos hacia el descubrimiento arqueológico más importante del siglo XXI. La primera noche en Teotihuacan fue diferente a todas las anteriores. Por primera vez en 2 meses, Mateo no despertó a las 3 de la madrugada. Durmió profundamente hasta el amanecer con una sonrisa en el rostro que sus padres no habían visto desde de las pesadillas. Pero cuando despertó, tenía algo urgente que hacer. Mamá, necesito papel y colores, dijo con una determinación que helaba la sangre. Tengo que dibujar el mapa antes de que se me olvide. Ana le dio una libreta y crayons, pensando que el niño quería dibujar las pirámides que había visto el día anterior. Pero lo que Mateo comenzó a creer los dejó sin aliento. Durante 3 horas seguidas, sin parar, en una sola vez, Mateo dibujó con precisión matemática un plano detallado de estructuras subterráneas, tunnels, cámaras, pasadizos, escaleras, todo conectado por un sistema de ventilación que ningún arquitecto moderno había imaginado. Mateo preguntó a Miguel con voz temblorosa. ¿Qué es esto? Es mi casa del barrio, papá. Don vivíamos cuando no había ceremonias arriba. Mira, el niño señaló un punto específico en el dibujo. Aquí está la habitación de mi padre sacerdote. Y aquí señaló otro punto. Esta donde guardamos los libros sagrados. Dr. Elena Vázquez, que había viajado desde Ciudad de México para documentar el caso, estudió el dibujo durante horas. Lo que vio la perturbó hasta lo más profundo de su ser. El mapa de Mateo mostraba un sistema de túneles que corría exactamente debajo de la pirámide de la luna, con conexiones precisas hacia otros edificios del complejo. Pero lo más impactante era la precisión de las medidas. Look at this, Miguel, Elena whispered. This child, he drew exact measurements, exact distances. 12 meters down, 18 steps north, 6 stone stairs. Ana frowned. And what does that mean? Elena swallowed, her eyes filling with tears. It means? Tomorrow we're digging exactly where Mateo told us to. Miguel hesitated. And if we actually find something there, what then? Elena looked at him, voice trembling. Then we'll have to rewrite everything we think we know about life and death. The next morning, May 4th, 2019, Elena's team began excavating precisely 12 meters beneath the surface, at the exact spot Mateo had marked with a red X on his drawing. 3 days later, at 2:47 p.m., a shovel struck carved stone. They had found the entrance to the first tunnel. But what waited inside would challenge even the most hardened skeptics. While Elena's team spent their days digging through the newly exposed tunnels, something extraordinary began happening each night. Mateo had returned to his nightly conversations, but now they were different, more intense, more detailed, and far more terrifying. The family was staying in a small hotel 5 kilometers from the ruins. Each night at exactly 3 a.m., Mateo sat up in bed and began speaking in ancient Nahuatl to someone only he could see. But this time, Ana was ready. Miguel had brought along a professional audio recorder for his university lectures high-end, capable of picking up even the faintest whisper. Ana set it beside Mateo's bed every night. The recording from May 6, 2019 changed everything. At 3:17 a.m., Mateo began his usual conversation. "Father Priest, why did you take so long to come for me?" Nothing unusual until it happened. A second voice answered. A low, resonant, adult voice speaking the same archaic Nahuatl as Mateo. A voice that unmistakably did not belong to a 4-year-old boy. "My child, I had to wait until you returned home. The tunnels were sealed. But now that they've been opened, I can visit you again." Ana shook Miguel awake, trembling. Together, they listened in horror as their son carried on a fluent conversation with the invisible presence. "The sacred books are still there, Father." "Yes, Itzel," the voice replied, "in the chamber of the jaguar, where we left them." Then the voice continued, even more unsettling than before. "But there is something more important you must know." "What is it, Father?" Mateo asked. A beat of silence. "You are not the only one who returned. There are other children like you, in different parts of the world. The time of the great return has begun." Miguel had recorded everything with his trembling phone. The strange dialogue continued for exactly 47 minutes. When Elena listened to the audio the next morning, all the color drained from her face. "Miguel," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I've studied classical Nahuatl for 15 years. That second voice? It's using verb forms that only appear in 6th century codices." Miguel swallowed hard. "So what does that mean?" "It means," Elena said, barely breathing, "that we are documenting something beyond any rational explanation. But the most shocking revelation was still to come. Because Mateo, a 4-year-old child, had just revealed the exact location of an archaeological treasure that would change the history of Mexico forever. May 7th, 2019, the day Mexican archaeology changed forever. That morning, after analyzing the nighttime recordings, Helena gathered her excavation team. They were about to make a decision that could define their careers. Would they truly follow the instructions of a 4-year-old boy? Mateo had been extremely precise during his strange conversation with the priest father. Voice: "Walk 38 steps from the Temple of the Moon toward the rising sun. You will find a stone shaped like a serpent. Dig 4 meters down. There you will find the chamber where I slept my final dream. 38 steps. East. Serpent-shaped stone. 4 meters deep." Coordinates so exact that no interpretation was needed. Elena measured exactly 38 steps from the base of the Temple of the Moon toward the east. Her assistants followed silently, cameras recording everything. At step 38, she stopped. There, half buried under centuries of sediment, was a stone unmistakably carved into the shape of a feathered serpent. "Oh my God," whispered Dr. Mendoza, who had traveled from Mexico City just to witness the dig. "The stone is exactly where the child said it would be." The team began excavation immediately. 1 meter deep. Nothing. 2 meters. Only dirt and fragments of pottery. 3 meters, doubt. But at 4 exact meters, a worker's shovel struck something solid, a perfectly carved stone slab. 6 hours later, the slab was clean. What they found beneath it left them speechless. An untouched funerary chamber, sealed for more than 1,000 years. When the video cameras descended inside, the entire team held their breath. At the center of the chamber, resting on a platform of jade and obsidian, lay the mummified remains of a child, around 8 years old. Surrounding him were priceless ceremonial objects, turquoise masks, gold necklaces, and perfectly preserved codices. But one detail froze Elena's blood. Beside the child's skull was an amulet identical to the one Mateo had drawn in his strange memory maps. Elena grabbed her radio. "Miguel, you need to bring Mateo here immediately." "Why? What did you find?" "We found exactly what he said we would, and the most chilling moment was still ahead." Elena insisted Mateo must not see any images before entering the chamber. She wanted his reaction authentic, untouched. At 4:30 p.m. on May 7th, Mateo descended into the excavation pit for the first time, into the chamber where he claimed he had slept his last dream more than 1,000 years ago. Everything was being filmed by 6 cameras and witnessed by 12 specialists in archaeology, psychology, and anthropology. Mateo reached the bottom holding his father's hand, but when he saw the entrance to the chamber, he let go and ran inside without fear. "My room!" he shouted with pure joy. "Daddy, this is my room." When Mateo's eyes finally settled on the mummified remains at the center of the chamber, everything about him changed. He froze silent, motionless, his small chest rising and falling quickly. Tears welled up in his eyes, not out of fear, not out of sadness, but out of recognition. "That's me," he whispered, placing a hand on his chest. "That's the body I had before." A cold shiver ran down Elena's spine. With a trembling voice she asked, "Mateo, can you tell us what happened here?" The little boy stepped forward, showing none of the fear any normal child would have in front of ancient remains. "I got very sick," he said softly. "After the ceremony of the sacred fire, my father the priest brought me here so I could rest. He gave me that necklace." He pointed at the amulet lying beside the skull. "And he told me I would return one day." "And then?" asked Dr. Mendoza, recording every word. "What happened after that?" "I fell asleep," Mateo said simply, "and I woke up in this life with my new parents." But what happened next left every expert in the room breathless. 2 weeks later, May 21st, 2019, Elena had quietly ordered a DNA analysis using next-generation sequencing technology, hoping to compare Mateo's genetic markers with those of the ancient child. The call came early in the morning. Dr. Patricia Ruiz, one of the leading geneticists at the National Institute of Anthropology, spoke with a voice cracking under shock. "Elena, you need to sit down. The DNA results are impossible." "What did you find?" Elena asked, nearly whispering. "We found shared genetic markers. Mitochondrial DNA matches indicating direct ancestral lineage." Elena's breath halted. "What does that mean?" "It means," Dr. Ruiz said, shaking, "that scientifically, Mateo is a direct genetic descendant of the 8-year-old child who died more than 1,000 years ago." Silence filled the line, because what was about to be revealed would challenge even the most basic laws of quantum physics. And then came the discovery that changed everything. Inside the funerary chamber where Mateo had recognized his former body, archaeologists found something far more shocking than bones. 3 codices perfectly preserved, wrapped in sacred resin-treated cotton fibers, untouched by time. For days, Dr. Elena Vasquez and her team of paleographers worked to translate the ancient glyphs. What they uncovered shook them to the core. Codex 1, a detailed manual describing what the priests of Teotihuacan called the journey of the eternal soul. It outlined, with startling precision, a ritual process through which the souls of certain children could retain memories through future reincarnations. Codex 2, even more disturbing. It contained a list of the children chosen for these sacred ceremonies, destined to preserve forbidden knowledge for future generations. And among those names, written clearly and unmistakably in classical Nahuatl, was Itzel, the same name Mateo had been repeating since his first nightmare. "This is impossible," Dr. Mendoza whispered as he traced the glyphs with shaking hands. "This codex is over 1,000 years old." But Elena had discovered something even more unsettling. The 3rd codex was unlike the others. Its pages held what looked unmistakably like a prophecy. In the time of the Great Return, When the sacred stones rise again, the chosen children shall return to their bodies of origin to complete the sacred mission. They will guide the people of the future toward the ancestral wisdom we preserved. The prophecy also mentioned several dates written in the ancient Aztec calendar. When Elena translated them to the Gregorian calendar, her knees nearly buckled. The dates pointed directly exactly to May 2019. Elena, Miguel whispered, but she was already dialing the Hernandez family. Bring Mateo immediately. There is something here. Something only he could finish. When Mateo arrived and saw the 3 codices laid out, he walked straight to the 3rd one without hesitation. Oh, he said casually, as if remembering an unfinished homework assignment. This one isn't complete. My priest father didn't have time to finish it before I left. Alana's voice trembled. Mateo, can you finish it? The boy nodded, picked up a brush and ink the archaeologists had set aside for documentation, and without pausing even once, began painting glyph after glyph with the precision of a trained scribe. For 2 uninterrupted hours, he completed text that had sat unfinished for over a millennium. When the paleographers translated the newly added passages, the room fell silent. Mateo had revealed the precise location of 12 additional hidden chambers scattered across. Mesoamerican chambers, where other guardian children had preserved knowledge meant to change humanity, us understanding of life, death, and the purpose of the soul. Elena's voice cracked as she asked, Mateo, are there others like you? The boy looked up with a calm, ancient certainty far beyond his years. Yes, doctor. And they're waking up. What followed would transform not only archaeology, but the entire human understanding of existence. 6 months later, the world had changed. The discoveries in Teotihuacan triggered a global shift. The case of Mateo Hernandez had opened a door humanity never knew existed. The codices he completed became the blueprint for an archaeological revolution. Using the coordinates Mateo had added to the ancient texts, international research teams located 8 of the 12 prophesied chambers in Chichen Itza, Monte Alban, Palenque, El Tajin. Each chamber held the preserved remains of children between 6 and 8 years old, surrounded by codices containing knowledge of medicine, astronomy, mathematics, and physics concepts modern science was only beginning to grasp. But even more astonishing was what began happening across the world. Dr. Elena Vasquez founded the International Institute for the Study of Ancestral Memory, and reports started flooding in. Children from different countries, children who had never heard of Teotihuacan, were suddenly speaking dead languages, drawing ancient maps, and recounting memories they could not possibly have lived. And this was only the beginning. In just 6 months, researchers had documented 47 children, all between the ages of 3 and 5, who described past lives in ancient civilizations with details that could be verified archaeologically. A 4-year-old boy in Egypt drew precise architectural plans of still undiscovered chambers inside the Great Pyramid. A 3-year-old girl in Peru spoke ancestral Quechua, describing Inca rituals with flawless historical accuracy. 5-year-old twins in Cambodia led archaeologists directly to hidden temples inside Angkor Wat, structures that had never appeared in any excavation report. It's as if an entire generation of ancient souls returned at the same time, Elena explained during an international conference. All of them carrying a mission to preserve and restore knowledge humanity has forgotten. Mateo, now 5, remained the most thoroughly documented case. He had helped locate 17 new archaeological sites, and his conversations with the priest father had already been translated into more than 20 languages. But the most powerful revelation came near the end of 2019, when scholars combined the fully translated codices. Every page, every symbol, every prophecy, they uncovered a final message, one powerful enough to redefine humanity's understanding of its own destiny. The world stands at the threshold of ancestral wisdom. The guardians return not to repeat the past, but to prepare humanity for what lies ahead. Your task is not merely to preserve the passage, but to awaken life's greater purpose. Elena, read the final lines aloud during a private briefing. The phenomenon is expanding, she said. New cases are appearing every week. Some include books, maps, and artifacts children should not, and cannot, have known existed. In Teotihuacan, excavations continued day and night. But something had changed. After the third night of awakening, Mateo no longer asked, "Go home." Instead, he spoke of preparing the world, of guiding humanity toward a truth it had forgotten. It was as if his mission had shifted, as if he had completed the return, and was now looking forward. Elena's final words echoed through the room. We believed these children were looking back into the past, but now we understand they came to warn us, to teach us, to guide us. The impossible was no longer impossible, and the story of the young guardians, the children who returned from forgotten ages, was only just beginning.